Morning. I should have been moaning. Maybe moaning, not morning. Firstly, big shout out to Wally and his missus. Big supporter of mine, Graham Moore, big player in the real estate market here in Auckland. And he's brought a couple of things to my attention this morning that are important to me. Just like every other piece of feedback I get is important. And thank you very much for all the feedback. It's impressive. And one of those pieces of feedback is what I'm going to open the batting with this morning. And that is a response to the ludicrous situation we exposed yesterday where on Aotea Great Barrier, on the island that has no public transport, Auckland Transport had elected to build a very nice $32,000 bus shelter at the end of a long, lonely, rustic road. One would imagine that bus shelter will be occupied today and being used by the seagulls and possibly some rodents. But things get worse for Auckland Transport because in response to that, a very keen listener has sent me an item here which you're just going to roll your eyes, scratch your head and go, you cannot be bleep serious. You cannot be serious. Auckland Transport, last year, they blew $121,000. $121,000. That's a lot of money for the average person. And I'm just an average bloke. $121,000, that's precious money. They blew it on footpath, hopscotch and sandwich boards. No, I'm not kidding. This is in Vulcan Lane and other well-known city lanes. They had sandwich boards and they paid people to dress in costume like clown jesters. Clowns, yeah, I know what you're thinking. They are clowns and they're jesters. But they paid these wannabe actors to dress in clown jesters and paint hopscotch on the ground and pretend they're enjoying Vulcan Lane. $121,000 of your precious money. You just wouldn't read about it, would you? You'd not believe it. Images on the footpath and clowns to dance around those images. You just don't know where it's going to end, do you? But anyway, getting back to the low-hanging fruit, a little beauty delivered to me this morning, a beauty, by the Chief Executive of the City Council, Jim Stavick. Now, Stavick's not known to me. I know one person who knows him who says he's actually not a bad bloke, but he's being held back by Phil Goff. That's Phil the cardboard cutout, the mayor you've got when you haven't got a mayor, that one, yeah. Not Little Phil. Little Phil's Richard Hills. That's the little poodle he leads around on a chain. Now, this is Phil Goff I'm talking about. He's holding Jim Stavick back. Now, Stavick has just copped, you won't believe this, a big wage increase. That's a surprise. It's only 30 grand, but that's a lot of money. 30 grand is a lot of money. So he's gone from 600 to 630. His predecessor was on about 680, but the four top rich listers off the council executive team, 3 of the 4, it's rats off a sinking ship here, 3 of the 4 have gone. Anyway, Jim's predecessor's gone. Jim's come in last year. He's had a tough year, they reckon. So they've reviewed his salary and put it up by $30,000, which in conjunction with all the other salaries being increased at council means now that your yearly salary bill at council is over $1 billion. $1 billion of your hard-earned money. Your money. $1 billion. Going to the council for doing what? Now, I want to quote you a couple of wee pieces from Stavick. By the way, his salary increase is backdated to September. So it's not just a little increase next week. It's backdated, just so he can go and buy himself another EV or go for another holiday somewhere exotic abroad, overseas. I mentioned his predecessor, that was Stephen Town, you'll know that. He was $690,000. So you're probably 698 actually, let's round it up and call it 700. You're probably thinking that Stavick's good value for money at 630. Well, let me tell you this, he's not. He's not good value at all. This is a guy, and I quote here, and he's defended by Goff in case you're wondering. Goff is saying that Stavick's salary increase is not substantial, given that he's had a difficult year. No, a difficult year? You must be kidding me. 7,000 employees at City Council, providing the services to 1.4 million people, or not providing the services as the case may be, and he's had a difficult year. Welcome to my world, Jim Stavick, but I don't get a wage increase and nor does anyone else out there in the wider environment. John Watson, who's also a councillor, said, this vote kickstarts an upper trajectory. Once again, at the worst possible time of business is struggling, well, I can tell you that's definitely absolutely true, and the financial effects of the pandemic are set to rise again this year. Let me tell you who voted, just a couple who voted in favour of the wage increase. You'll be surprised about this. Chris Darby, North Shore, left wing. And Little Phil, Richard Hills. Little Phil's put his hand up to spend someone else's money again. He's a wee beauty at that. You know, Little Phil's a member of the Labour Party. That means he can't ever dissent from what they say. So's Gough. So's Chris Darby. They're all members of the Labour Party, and that means that whatever central government says, they have to say yes to it. So central government says we're taking Auckland over tomorrow and going to steal everything. They've got to say yes. Because if they dissent, they get expelled from the party. So that just goes to show they're not really independent at all, are they? You haven't got an independent mayor, you haven't got an independent council. Anyway, getting back to Stabbock. So Stabbock, he needs to do some work on his memory loss. And this is the problem with these people. They like to paint a picture and tell a lie and fabricate a story, but they forget that things get documented. And a bloke like me who has a keen mind can always go and document who they've voted for, what they voted against, what they've done or not done. And Stabbock's on the record of launching a brutal assault on the museum staff only a year ago. The museum staff, there's quite a few of them up there in case you didn't know. 2% of your rates go to the museum. Don't know if you knew that. 2%. 2% of your rates go to the museum. And during COVID, the museum's often not open. And when it is, it offers limited services. But at the moment, their wage costs in the last year at the museum has gone up 11%. And Stabbock said it was obscene, objectionable, no justification for it. Hello, one rule for me, one rule for thee. Stabbock takes this big fat increase, but it's not okay for the museum. Incidentally, the museum's gone from 17.8 million to 20 million in wage costs now, but simultaneously, revenue's gone up by 8 million. So where's the extra profit, the extra margin gone? You tell me. 11% wage increase, resisted by Stabbock, who gave himself a big backhander at the same time. Let me tell you a couple other things about Stabbock. He's a little beauty. He said the other day, and I'm just going to find this document here where he said it, because it's an absolute beauty and you've got to listen to it. I need to quote it to you directly, just so I get my facts right. Auckland City Council may close libraries and swimming pools due to Omicron actually. Not Omicron, thank you, Omicron. And of course they close public toilets under level 3 and 4 too, so public toilets become another thing. Don't know why they do it. They stand all their staff down. 7,000 staff stood down last Monday, of course, working from home, so providing no essential services. And when they don't provide toilets, we all know what happens for the rough sleepers and the homeless. A lot of them around the Viaduct, a lot of them in the central city now, and we have to take that on the chin. But anyway, pools, leisure centres, community services, all being cut back due to Omicron. But here's the doozy that I like, and I'm going to read it directly. I don't often read when I'm talking to you. I like just to have a bit of a yarn, I'm that sort of guy. But here's the doozy. This is Stabbock being quoted. And listen carefully, because this is him being quoted. These are the things that Aucklanders need from us, not just the services that they want or are nice to have. Waste collection, cemetery and crematoria services, water services that we deliver alongside water care, and some of our regulatory and compliance services. And this is the rest of the quote. You won't believe he said this. Delivery of these services may look different or be pared back somewhat, but what is most important is our ability to still deliver the most critical aspects of our business. The most critical aspects of our business. So he's precluding waste collection, cemetery, crematoria services and water services as the most critical aspects of our business. A note to self, don't die. Don't have anyone die at the moment because services are pared back. Waste collection, no waste collection. You can't make rubbish at this time because council doesn't have the capacity to remove it. Water services, no showering, no showering. I know those types that go to the Domain, the protesters, you don't shower anyway, but those of us who do shower, the civilised people, and I had a lovely bath this morning, lovely bath, a nice cup of tea too, just like Mum. The old days, dear old Mum, dead 8 years now, Mum would have a cup of tea and a bath. I've got a cup of Earl Grey this morning, very weak Earl Grey, but very good. Anyway, getting back to the important part, water services. So no cleaning of the car, no showers please, and don't do any washing for a few days, while Jim Stabbock sorts out what the council can and can't do during the virus that doesn't exist. I see that little whinging Michael Baker, little whiner he is. I'm not by nature a violent person, but there's a big part of me that wants to get into a boxing ring with Michael Baker. I know what you're thinking. There's a big part of me that wants to do what you're thinking you'd like to do to him. Anyway, I see this morning he's come out publicly and declared that they should have a new way of counting the Auckland infection rate. Not the New Zealand infection rate for Omicron. And the reason he's done that is because we only had 208 yesterday. I think we've got 12 in hospital as we speak, 12, one in ICU. But Michael Baker is, of course, the one who sanctioned and validated the international modelling that said we'd have 50,000 a day during Waitangi weekend. So Michael, clearly not very good at math. 208, Michael. Let's quickly do the math. 48,792. Not a big error factor for you, Michael. Obviously tolerable. I wouldn't leave you in charge of my bank account, mate. or my TAB account, you'd be a joke on both fronts. Anyway, we've got to wrap this. We're 10 minutes in. I've been told that I ramble and waffle too much. So before we wrap it, though, I wanted to touch on a couple of the rich listers. Now, as you know, about 2 years ago, there was a publication of rich listers sent out, done by, I think, Taxpayers Union or somebody. Council was very uncooperative. There's a surprise for you. Just take a sip of tea here. I know you don't mind if I have a sip of tea. Beautiful cup of tea. It's the Irish side of me coming up. Lovely cup of tea in the morning. Anyway, key findings in this rich listers report. 86, 2 years old, of course, so it'll be out of date now. You can add another 10% by now. 86 key staff paid 250 grand or more. 86. 14 of those are at AT, Auckland Transport. The disruptors, we call them around here, disruptors of your city, disruptors of your life. So 86 people on more than $250,000, 14 of them work at AT. 71% of all the rich listers are men. No room for women at this council, no room for women. Let me tell you now, I love women. I love them. And there'll be plenty of women representing this council at every level, the executive level in particular, when I become mayor, which won't be far away from happening, let me tell you that. Now, the other thing about these rich listers, they're wealthy, they're overpaid, they're overweight, a lot of them, underemployed, stood down at the moment as we speak, doing absolutely nothing from home. Home's probably on way here at the beach somewhere. But they enjoy a level of job security that you don't, because they're not accountable to anyone. You see, this is the weird thing how the Auckland City Council works. It insulates them from scrutiny and from any sort of performance parameter. There is no KPI to measure the performance. And as I said before, the rats are leaving the sinking ship. So in the last year, Raveen Jadaram has gone from water care, 775 a year, 775,000. He's gone. Stephen Town has gone from CEO job, that's Stabbock's job now. Stephen was 698,000 a year, rounded up and call it 700 grand. It's only a round of beers and a Ponsonby bar, 2 grand, so I might as well call it 700. Shane Ellison, CEO of, who was he again? He was Auckland Transport. Oh, God, roll your eyes. No, Auckland Transport. He was 540, but he's gone too. So the rats are leaving the sinking ship. There's a couple others I want to mention, but one in particular. As you all know, Auckland Transport has some weird relationship, not Auckland Transport, Auckland City Council has some weird relationship with Simpson Grierson. It's odd in the extreme how often they engage Simpson Grierson to do the most trivial of jobs. But did you know that they have a person on staff named, I'm reading from a note here, Danny Gardner. Danny Gardner. Looks like a nice young lady, just harmless enough. General Counsel, Auckland Council. General Counsel, so she's their in-house lawyer. And what you normally find with these in-house lawyers is they're not good enough to get a job at a leading law firm, or they wouldn't be good enough to be a partner if they did get a job. So they tend to default to these, they get jobs in corporate entities like council, for example, New Zealand Thoroughbred Racing. You don't get the bester, that's a new English word I just invented. You don't get the better class of lawyer taking these jobs on. But Danny Gardner is incredibly paid $325,000 a year to deal with disputed parking tickets, disputed parking in a bus lane ticket, because everything else gets referred to Simpson Grierson or Co. Someone similar to that. So ask yourself, to close play today, because the sermon is done, it's 13 minutes long and I've been told I talk too long, although not everyone agrees on that. Some people say I should talk more. But ask yourself, are you getting value? Are you getting value for your rates? Your rates are going up, well, Goff reckons 3.5% this year. Richard Hills has added another 2.5% targeted levy for climate change. And I've got to say, the way the weather's been here the last 3 days, we have to have a talk about climate change sometime soon. In fact, why don't we do that tomorrow? Let's do climate change tomorrow, and we'll do EVs, because I see that useless cutout Goff has decided that we're all going to drive EVs, which is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. But we'll call that, we'll do that tomorrow. So for today, we'll wrap the show today, and we'll say thank you yet again for your feedback. Thank you for your support. And keep it coming, and keep feeding me raw material, because these little sermons are immensely popular across the country, and it's important that I bring you the stats and the figures to help you understand how incompetent and how shambolic this council is. That is when they're working. But at the moment, as we know, they're all stood down, and they're not working. And why are they stood down? Because we have 12 people in hospital and 1 in intensive care. On that note, I will say thank you and goodbye. Over and out. And don't forget, Leo for Mayor. Like my page. Take care out there. Bye now.